I would like to be critical of something that Farhan Zaidi did.
Well, hold on just a minute. You critical of him?
Here we go.
Okay.
You ready?
I mean, I am ready for this. Hold on.
Okay,
Do you have to be a homer?
No.
It's not a good question. It's pandering crap. I might have got that wrong, but
I was bothered by something he said yesterday. Really, really bothered. If you run a go deep. Now, maybe I'm sort of viewing this wrong, but this is how I translated it. And I don't want to go too far deep into the weeds with all of the exact quotes because it'll bore you. I think I can summarize it a little bit quicker and easier. So you're familiar with Shota Imanaga. Shota Imanaga.
having quite a good year this year.
He sure is. This is a free agent pitcher with the Chicago Cubs. That's where he signed. And this is following all of the hype about pitchers coming over this last offseason, starting with Yamamoto, right, who ends up with the Dodgers. And there were a handful of guys that everybody was looking at. And the Giants were highly, highly engaged, supposedly, and involved with a lot of them. They didn't get them. So Imanaga, so far this year with the Cubs, in 11 starts, is 5-1 with an ERA of 1.88. Okay? His whip is barely over 1. I don't know where his nene is, but that's where his whip is. Shota Imanaga. Farhan was asked, take us through the free agent process with Shota Imanaga. Did you go after him? If you didn't, why didn't you? Or did you? Why did he say no? That whole thing. And the Giants had been named with Imanaga at times. His answer was essentially this. This is what got me. And again, I'm summarizing. His answer was, our analytics department loved his pitches. Loved them. Our scouting department did not. So the eyes on the scene did not think he necessarily had elite, quote unquote, stuff. Now, our analytics, the analytics was hot on Shota. But the eyes on the scene were like, I'm not sure if I see it. So we did not pursue him aggressively. Now, here's how I'm going to translate that. You, the president of baseball operations, are essentially saying, I was right, but my people talked me out of it.
Yeah. My scouts.
No. See,
he doesn't get to do that?
Not if your title is president. All decisions are yours. You have the final say. This guy's fantastic, and my goodness, at a time when the San Francisco Giants are leaning back out of analytics to a little bit more human thought, and Bob Melvin represents something a little bit more old school, to me, this was almost like a veiled shot where Farhan is like, see, if you would just listen to all of the data, if you would watch the machines work, and all of the robotics, we could have had this guy. But we still employ human beings, and they were all wrong. And so now we don't have Shota Imanaga and his 1.88 ERA. That is how that felt to me. Do I think that Farhan Zaidi was openly like, hey, let's do the interview, and I'm going to take shots at my scouting department? No, I think that's saying it a little hot. But how many times have you seen Farhan speak this deep about a free agent pursuit and exactly where it went or didn't go and why? Like, he'll say, oh, yeah, we tried for Aaron Judge and it didn't work out. He's just bringing up specific little idiosyncrasies of the whole thing. And I thought to myself, that I'm, as always, celebrities speaking to a microphone, there's a reason. There's a reason you're putting that information out there.
It's not like he got cornered walking out of a restaurant by TMZ.
Correct.
This is an interview he did with The Athletic. And Imanaga, 30 years old, signed a 4-year, $53 million contract with the Cubs, which is $13.25 a year. That is a bargain. That's less than you paid Mania and less than I think you paid Steve Sclafani and Strip Doggy Dog last year. And the actual quote is even more interesting than the way you described it.
Hit me with the actual quote.
Your description was great. But he says, our pitch grade models really liked him.
Yep.
They had plus grades on all three of his pitches, fastball, split, and breaking ball. So the machines are looking at spin rate and all the rest of it, and we like it. Plus grades on all three. But our scouting reports weren't as strong. And it's understandable because what makes his pitches so effective doesn't jump out to the naked eye. So the machines are saying, damn, did you see the spin rate on that Imanaga? And the scouts are like, nah, I wasn't thrilled by it. And then he goes on to say about the availability of pitch data from the Pacific Rim makes those valuations more sound, but there's still a leap to take when you don't have that high-end velocity. I imagine there are scouts around the game that had him as a high-end starter, but I suspect that the teams that were highest on him put the greatest stock in their pitch model valuations. In other words, the teams, the Cubs, that went out there and pursued him were teams that like the pitch model valuations, the machine stuff, and the teams that are more scout heavy were more down on him, which tells me that they're going to fire the entire scouting department. If you're a scout with the Giants and you read this, I'm looking for a new job.
If I read this, I'm livid.
No, livid.
You sold me out to NBC Sports Bay Area because Imanaga has had a good start to his big league career.
10 starts, 10 good starts.
But also keep in mind, no big league hitter has ever seen him before. So everybody he's faced is facing him for the first time. So he comes out hot. This is not to say that he's not going to be really good. I would argue that he will be really good. Like, I don't think you put this together because, again, there's video. People can see you, Bob.
Yeah.
So, yes, they'd be doing something against him if he wasn't a good pitcher. But there's something going on inside the Giants organization that feels like a discord because Farhan was doing it his way and Gabe Kapler is in the mirror with cheeseburgers and let's be honest, is making no decisions ever. And then it got too hot and you had to get rid of somebody. And so Gabe's the guy and the Giants are going to stick with Farhan and pair him with Bob Melvin. And that's interesting because now it's like, all right, you have a bigger voice in the room to challenge you. And by the way, we're told sometimes they do. There is discussion that is not always agreement between the baseball people on the field and the guys upstairs. And it's not just Farhan, Patella, that whole group.
And you would imagine that Bob is more representative of the scouting report side as opposed to the pitch grade models. So in those debates, if it is between Farhan and Bob is from the old school. Farhan is from the new school.
More so.
Yes.
And I think Farhan has a human element and Melvin has an analytics element.
No doubt. Well stated.
It's not robot versus human. But Farhan certainly comes from the side of let's lean on what the data is suggesting. And Melvin probably leans more toward my eyes tell me this, my guy's out there on the field, here's what I see. And I think we know this. So for this to be publicly stated, well, what'd you call them? Our pitch what models?
Pitch grade models.
Our pitch grade models.
The machine will grade the pitch. Yeah. I gave that an A-. Right.
Our humans didn't like him as much.
Right.
We should have listened to the machines.
Exactly. And what I heard him say at the end is I suspect that the teams that were highest on him put the greatest stock in their pitch model valuations, which tells me that going forward, they will put greater stock in the pitch model valuations.
Well, here's to me, this is like, if you want the final straw in this conversation, I would look at Farhan and say, then why didn't you listen to your pitch grade models?
Right. You're the boss.
You're the boss. Go get him. Go get him.
Right.
It's almost as if he's saying, I listened to some of our people and maybe I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Well, but that's not their fault.
it's not. And then to come out and make these comments to The Athletic and basically say...
Oh, was it to The Athletic? Sorry, I said NBC Sports.
No, that's where I'm reading it from, NBC Sports, but I believe it was in an article in a recent feature story posted on The Athletic that NBC Sports essentially aggregated. It was an aggregation sensation is what it was. And
that happens.
Yeah, and I appreciate them giving the proper credit to The Athletic, and they actually did the right thing, which is link back to that story if you're so inclined to look at the entire feature. But this tells me that, yeah, he had his own machine people saying, yeah, I like the player, I like the pick, but the scouts talked him out of it. That's not good for Farhan.
No, it's not. No, it's not. But I also, gosh, to not just to put it out there publicly, but to sort of, it just makes me feel like there's discord in there about direction. And I wonder now how that's having an effect on even these decisions that we're talking about. Because again, we'll look at it as people and be like, wait a minute, Matos was NL Player of the Week and he's exciting and he's young and he's homegrown. And you're going to come back with slates and his 46 at bats where he didn't do anything with them. Well, what are their advanced, who knows what? What do they say? What do they say about what they're seeing with Luis Matos out there? There was a reason that the guy was leading off. And then his National League Player of the Week, and he's hitting fifth. And everyone's like, Matos, this is exciting. And they've got the Latin vibe, and this is amazing. And then quietly, within a week and a half, he's batting ninth. Who do you think put him there? I can promise you, it probably wasn't Bob.
Right.
I don't know that Bob would have fought otherwise because Matos wasn't hitting. You have to put him somewhere. They would have liked to bat him 10th the way he was hitting. But there's like all sorts of deep data that's getting thrown at this. And I have a feeling it wasn't looking too good for Luis. For you to have a 0.2 WAR when you were also National League Player of the Week during that time, do you know how bad you have to be for all the other weeks? It's pretty intense. It's pretty intense. He was phenomenal. He deserves all the credit. I'm not selling my Matos stock.
Right.
But the baseball we saw from him since that week was really, really under par.
Yeah, it was a struggle. He was on the struggle bus, and he had 5 runs batted in against Colorado. The next game, he had 6 runs batted in. He had 11 in 2 games. He was absolutely dominant, hitting .385 with an OPS mark of 1115. That was 7 games into his season, and by the time he got sent down, his OPS on base plus slugging had gone down 540 points. It had gone down to 577.
Ouch.
His batting average plummeted by 160 points, and all of his metrics all sank when he batted 165 over the course of 3 weeks.
Yeah. So, this is classically like, I don't know, I don't want to bring up politics, but it's the way a lot of people feel about the election. It's like, Matos or Slater?
Right.
Yeah.
You got a third-party outfielder I can vote on?
What else you got? What else you got?
I'm voting Fitzgerald.
I don't know. Nobody is here saying, boy, this is amazing. Austin Slater's back. Here come the Giants. But this one did not bring about some sort of emotional reaction from me because they're now going away from the future. Like, you have to always remember, I think, what the circumstances were when they brought these guys up. They didn't bring them up because they wanted to. They brought them up because they had to.
Right.
So you got to keep that in mind in terms of where they go next. And then the other bottom line is, then this goes for everybody, man. Like, it's go time. It's time to boogie, as you said.
Yep.
So you got to play. And if you don't, then you're going to get what you get. And you may get to stay, but you might not.
Yeah, and you might only get to stay because there's no one else who can come up and replace you due to all the injuries and the fact that, other guys are struggling. You're going to see Ramos get a little bit more leash because you don't have a lot of other options right now in the outfield.
Ramos not going anywhere.
Right.
Ramos looks